Not seeing a comment. Ooh, look at that. That worked. That brought us right back.
Yeah, that went straight back.
That
Well,
went
I
straight
have
back.
something to show you that
Okay.
kind of has to do with the previous super chat comment about things going down.
You're on solo, my friend. It's all you.
So this is a little transceiver that I've been playing with. It's called the company name is PreppCom. It's the DMX-40, and I'm reviewing it. Actually, I have reviewed it. I wrote the article already. It's an HF radio, 40-meter band, and it has a full Morse code encoder decoder built into it. No computer necessary. You just plug in a USB keyboard right there, and your headphones up here. This is an SMA jack. I have a mini dummy load on it right now.
Uh-huh. Very, very cool.
And it's Morse code. So as far as the grid being down and utilizing reliable communications, obviously HF is great for when the internet goes down. But on top of that, Morse code is great because even if the band conditions are poor, you can most likely communicate with someone. And this thing decodes really well. Not as great as the human ear necessarily, but pretty close. Better than anything else I've tried. I've tried most of the other products out there that decode Morse code, and most have not done very well, and the software out there. And it's a great way to get into Morse code, I think, because you just get on the air. That's the best part. So I learned Morse code when I was a teen, when I first got my ham license. I didn't learn it because I needed to learn it. I just, learned it. But high school hit, and I stopped doing it, and I lost it. I lost my Morse code skills.
Well, I never got them.
Yeah. So, and this is great for people who want to, who see soda as a fun activity and know that voice can be very problematic and difficult when the band conditions are poor. It can be such a letdown sometimes. You get up there, you set everything up, even with a great antenna. If the bands aren't cooperating, voice can be very difficult to operate. And you just hiked up a mountain, and then you don't get to play radio, essentially. So this is...
Let me ask you a question about that, because I was looking at that. I was looking at getting one of those and checking out, because my CW skills are weak, but I would still like to be able to do CW. I never can find the time to really sit down, buckle down, and learn it, and then keep my skills up. I picked up some skills, and then I get busy with other aspects of life or whatever.
I'm in the same boat.
So that is very interesting to me. If it is, how is it on the decode?
Really good. I was actually surprised. Unless it's a really, really weak signal, it does surprisingly good. And people have complained about it, but that's mostly because you really, just like any radio, you have to learn its ins and outs, and you got to get good at dialing in the incoming signal. If you're not really on frequency, it may not decode as well. There's some videos out there on YouTube, I believe, showing it, and I liked it so much. Now, full disclosure, I was sent this for free, and to do a review, but I liked it so much I bought a second one.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually loaned that one out to Josh. He's had it for the summer, and we'll see what he thinks. He's doing a good deep dive on it, I think.
Okay.
And hopefully he and I are going to try to do some two-way comms between both of them. And you can also hook it up to any other HF radio. So
that was going to be my next question.
Those
what
two,
if I want to go on 20 meters?
Yep, those two ports there, those two audio jacks, let you link it up to the the key in out of your radio, and also the audio input. So you just take the headphone jack out of your radio and it goes into the audio input on here. And then you connect the key jack on here to the key jack on your radio.
Okay.
And then you just switch it over to I think they call it external mode. So then it stops putting RF out of the SMA here, and then it purely goes encode decode externally to any other radio that has the same abilities.
Very
abilities as in it just needs a headphone jack and a keyer jack, really. And the radio doesn't know that it's doing this versus you doing a straight key with headphones. It's completely supplementing your hand on the key and your ear listening to the code. Now, my goal is to learn code by being on and just listening. So I'm watching it decode, right? But I'm listening at the same time. So I'm hearing the code come in and seeing the decode. So I'm hoping that I'll put 2 and 2 together. There's plenty of software out there that's what it does, except you're not actually on the air, right? You're just listening to a fake conversation. There's an app out there that'll even read you the news in Morse code. I forget what it's called. It's on the App Store. And you can just listen to the news coming in, but you're not really playing ham radio, right? So I like this because what little time I have to actually play ham radio on the air, I'm actually on the air, not listening to a recording, not pretending to be on the air. I'm really on the air. And then when I feel comfortable, I can switch over to a straight key or some paddles. And I didn't spend that last 3 months, 6 months, however long it takes me. It could take me a long time. I'm not that smart to learn Morse code. Instead of, I could have hundreds of contacts in that period using this during the learning process instead of no contacts during the learning process.
Yeah, and have fun, and it makes you. I have had this. I have spouted this off from day one. Once you are invested in this hobby, then you want more and more and more. If you're not invested in it, I have not dealt with, but I've heard these guys that say, "Oh, you shouldn't be on the air until you can master all this stuff and you understand everything and you've studied it for eons and eons." And I say, absolutely not. Get on the air. Whether you're working with a control operator or you go out and get your license, get on the air, have fun, buy that $35 radio so you're not really invested in the hobby until you figure out that you're having fun. And once you figure out how much fun you're having, you're going to then go, you know what? The $35 radio isn't enough. I want the $150 radio, or I want this beautiful display on this radio. Or I want, my 705, I want to try that. And just like with that radio, you'll never want to do CW unless you find out how fun CW is.
Yeah, and it is like $300. This is not a inexpensive, I'm going to try out Morse code. You really need to know that you want to do it.
Right.
Maybe experience other people doing Morse code at a POTA or SOTA activation. I wouldn't recommend someone just buy it because they think Morse code could be fun. You should have some experiences first, seeing other people having fun. Watch some YouTube videos maybe, because there's plenty of SOTA and POTA videos out there that show you how much fun it can be. And Morse code just gives you that edge for POTA and SOTA activations, especially SOTA activations, where you're going to make all the contacts you need because the band conditions are almost irrelevant. If you post that you're going to be up there, you're going to make contacts.
True. I remember doing a SOTA activation with a couple of buddies, and we kind of split it up. And, one guy took VHF, UHF. One guy said, I'm going to do CW. I said, I'm doing phone. The UHF, VHF guy, he made, I think, 6 or 7 contacts on the local repeater and on 652. The guy working CW, he made like 20 some odd contacts, and I made 1.
Yeah. And sometimes you make none. I've been there, haul my gear out there, get everything ready, and then nothing. No one hears me. I mean, and that's the other thing. Like there's people on the air.
Oh yeah.
But they're running power, or at least 100 watts. But you're down in the mud with 5 watts and maybe a compromised antenna because you're trying to be lightweight, going up the hill, and it just kills voice. You need really good conditions for voice to be really effective. And like, what was it? 7 years ago, the last time the bands were up, it was great. I mean, I had this little handheld HF radio and a whip antenna and a tape measure counterpoise, and I was making contacts all over the world on voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that was optimum conditions, like the peak. Okay? And if you don't want to only operate during the peak of the solar cycle on QRP voice with a compromised antenna, it's a good idea to get into code. Yes. And here, I'll go. Oh, you go ahead and read that comment.
This is great. Insurance lady. So what's the replacement cost estimate of all your electronics gear? Awkward moment when your wife looks at you waiting to hear the real answer.
That's trouble.
Marlon, thank you for that. That was freaking awesome.
Oh, man. That's a sticky situation to be in. Let me just show you real quick. I'm going to turn it on.
Okay.
Let's see if I get lined up here. And then, the whole screen text will flow as you're decoding.
Mm-hmm.
And it even has a sending buffer. So when you're typing, it's going to send at the speed you set it at, but typically you'll type faster than the speed it's sending. So you're buffering ahead of it transmitting, and you can edit the buffer until it reaches the transmit point. So if you typo, you can hit the backspace on the keyboard a couple times, fix your sentence before it transmits live.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. When you're using the keyboard, you tend to hit the wrong key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really fun, and I hope more products like this come out. It's products like this that are innovating old, antiquated technology that some people, laugh at. Like, oh, Morse code. That's Grandpa's technology, but it works, and it's this kind of product that's going to keep Morse code alive.
And I'll tell you what, the military still uses Morse code.
Yeah.
There's a reason. There's a reason they do.
Doesn't the Air Force still have a Morse code training program? I feel like I read that somewhere.
Yeah, they do. It's still, when you go to radio operator school, you go through a Morse code class, and you learn Morse code. I love that little radio. I almost bought one the last time you and I talked, and you showed it to me for the first time.
Oh, did I show it to you already? Okay.
You did show it to me, but no, that's great. And I almost bought it, and I thought, I just can't afford it right now. $350. It was a lot of money. And I wanted it more for the Morse code training. I always figured, man, if I could hook that up to whatever else I'm using and have it be a really good coder, encoder, or decoder, encoder.
Yeah.
That would help me out in the interim. And then if it would help me learn Morse code, man, that would be just freaking awesome.
And it's made in Idaho. It's made in Idaho.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Sandpoint, Idaho, northern Idaho.
Okay.
I grew up there. And I happened to be in the area on vacation visiting family, and I contacted the guy, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be in the area. How about we stop by and have a chat? So I went to his house where he has these things built by hand, and we sat down and chatted for a long time. It was really cool to see the operation in progress for something made in America. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very, very cool.
I hope more of that stuff comes out.
I think I might have emailed the guy at one point, and I might have found. Yeah, I think I did mention something about I had just moved to Idaho. So very cool.
Well, Bob, if he doesn't get back to you about doing a review when Josh is done playing with the one I loaned him, would you like to
absolutely
try it out?
Absolutely.
Send it to you. You can borrow it and see if you like it, and then maybe it's something you'd like to get for yourself if you find it useful.
Yeah.
Make for a great review too, I think.
I think if I played with it, and there's got to be a ton of guys just like me. I would love to learn CW. I would love to get proficient. I just don't have the time to spend an hour or two every single day, and you have to do it every single day. I get it. I get there's no shortcuts for the hard work or for the work you got to put in.
I think of it like, the old days of learning Morse code where you had an LP, right? You had a record that was just recorded Morse code conversations, and you would listen to it, or a tape or a CD, and now it's digital, right? But that's still a thing, like just listening to conversations to build your proficiency at decoding in your head. This is the same thing. You're listening to conversations on the air. You don't even have to participate. You can just watch a conversation happening, and it gets you used to the flow of the QSO with Morse code and the abbreviations that are used, and the shorthand, the Q codes.
Yeah.
And then you can jump in and play without as much fear, like mic fright, right? I think it's a great option for that. Yeah. Instead of just listening to a cassette tape. Geez, that dates me. Of a Morse code conversation.
An 8-track.
8-track, right. Yeah, so I think it's a great option for that. For hams like you and I that are already invested in the hobby, not necessarily for a beginner, Mm-hmm. If you just bought a Baofeng, this is probably not the next radio for you. But I hope it's the start of something bigger. I hope it's the start of more products that are emphasizing Morse code again. Because the KX2, for instance, KX2, KX3, they got a built-in decoder, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no encoder. Why not? Why not?
Well, because they want to sell a key.
Sure, but they should sell the key and the keyboard.
Yes. I agree. And you know what? All these things kind of go back to this whole thing. How do we get more people invested in ham radio? How do we get people to get interested in ham radio? And I'll tell you what, I think the biggest thing that brings me back to is this article, is it on the mark or is it not on the mark, is the fact of I look no further than the ham radio crash course with over 200,000 subscribers. No, we're not just talking casual viewers. We're talking people that have enough interest in it to hit that subscribe button. That's huge. That's one channel. And then you've got, Jason on Ham Radio 2.0 with close to 100,000, Dave Kassler with close to 100,000. And then, you got guys like me back in the 30s, but that's 30,000 subscribers.
That's a lot. That's nothing to laugh at.
For such a niche little market.
And I love your show. I think your show is great. I think you deserve as many subscribers as Josh, honestly. Thank you. The two of you are like the main shows I watch, and I watch, Ham Radio 2.0 also, and some of the other guys. My biggest problem is having enough time to watch all of you.
Yeah.
Luckily, I can put it on while I'm building. That's when I really get to catch up on shows on these Ham Radio YouTube shows is when I'm building products. So I think your show, Josh's show, all these shows, I think are really helping maintain the hobby. And that article, even though I don't agree with most of what it says and the doom and gloom, I feel like if we don't take it seriously, then that's what'll happen. We have to maintain our hobby. There are people that say, "Oh, it's fine. Everything's fine, going to be fine." It's like, well, yeah, it'll be fine if we do something about it. If we don't do anything, it could go into decline.
All right, guys, these are what I call little live bits from the big live show that I do on Mondays called Lunch and Ham Radio, Mondays noon Mountain Time, where we can explore subjects in depth, do a lot more back and forth. Audience participation is key, and we have a great time. Join us on Mondays if you can. If you can't, I'm going to try to break some of these little segments out into bite-sized pieces. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining. I'm Bob, K6UDA. I'm out of here. 7-3.